Hello, this is Molly Reamer with 30 Days of Goddess and Bridget's Grove with this month's practice update for 30 Days of Goddess. So welcome to April. Our theme for this month is trust, and the goddess we are honoring and working with is Pandora. So we can really look at a lot of themes this month in addition to trust, to liberation, unlocked doors, making our own choices, our lives and our bodies as the sites of our own liberation. So we are going to continue this month to also explore the power spots that I've referenced in assorted other interviews this month or in the last couple of months, and also the pockets of small sacredness that we can create for ourselves, the power spots that we can create and how that builds self-trust, and the moments of small sacredness in our days. And so really for me, I find that the heart of daily practice in many ways is about self-trust. It's a process of self-trust. It's a practice of self-trust. It's a cultivation of self-trust, trust in the sacred and in myself, trust in our capacity to show up, trust in our power spots to build magic. Really for me, daily practice, 30 Days of Goddess is all about building and cultivating self-trust. So before we jump into the rest of the month, I would like to invite you to take a moment to pause and drop into yourself, taking a nice deep breath, calling your spirit back, calling yourself into presence, into this moment, into your life as it is right now. Here we are together in another month. And I always encourage us to root ourselves in the magic of place, in the magic of our own landscapes, in the lives that we are living. And so I would like to invite you now, thinking about the power spot idea, thinking about how our practices cultivate self-trust and how we build self-trust through these practices. I want to call your attention back to a little prayer card that was in the Power Spots ritual kit. I'll link to that below. But also I included a color version as a spring equinox bonus in our Creative Spirit newsletter as well. And so I want to invite this practice in. I encourage you to actually embody this practice now, which is about calling in the elements and the magic of place right where you are in your own landscape. And so this is the practice. This is a practice and a reading and a process and a ritual all in one. Let us cast our circle and make our magic with the stuff of our own lives. To the east. And so this is your invitation to turn to your own east. What magic is in your own east? To the east, there are sunbeams and the wind. Call it in. So call in your east. What is present in your east? To the north, there are oaks and cedars and silent stones. Call it in, but you call in what's in your north. To the west, there are crows and quiet deer between the trees. Call it in. You call in your west. To the south, there are blue stem grasses gone to gold and red-bellied woodpeckers. Call it in. You call in your south. And ideally you would turn. I'm not turning because I'm speaking to the camera, but in your north where you are, turn to your north and see what there is in your north right now. That's the magic of your place. That's your own living poem. That's your power spot. That's where you make your magic. Wherever you stand is the center of the circle. Find your power spot right here. You have everything you need to make magic. Your breath, your body, your hands, your prayers, your attention, your presence. So welcome to April. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing space with me, for extending your awareness out to the other members of our community. And as always, if you go to 30daysofgoddess.com, you will find your companion materials for this month, including your April snapshot cards, which look something like this. And if you're a member of our Goddess Magic devotional community, which I really do invite you to join, it's really a day or every day, a 365 days a year experience in everyday magic, ordinary enchantment, finding the sacred in your life. And so if you are a member of that community, you'll also receive the guidebook, which actually goes for April and May, and our Pandora packet, and a whole bunch of other cards and good resources for you. So you're invited to join us. The 30 Days of Goddess practice is always free, and I always provide everything that you need to participate in full for a month, available at 30daysofgoddess.com. But if you want like the whole package, you are welcome to join us at patreon.com/goddessmagic for a community practice, for a experience of living the sacred in our lives in the context of a devotional community as well. And so as I mentioned at the very beginning, I really think of the power of 30 Days of Goddess and of daily practice about cultivating self-trust in our lives. And then so connecting to that and to the idea of power spots, I want to go ahead and read, actually I have two. I have a power spots and then I have this one as well. So this is just a reminder about small sacredness and the power of daily practice. Even a small patch of time in which to be still can offer restoration to your rough and weary places. 15 seconds with your hand on your heart, 1 whispered prayer, 2 minutes of candlelight, a song carried in your mind, 3 conscious breaths. Each of these things offers a spark of renewal in a full day, a slice of time in which to rest and recollect your spirit. While we all need some moments of flash and fire, lightning strikes of inspiration, and rivers of creativity in which to bathe, our lives are woven in the day-to-day, the bits of small sacredness and breaths of the holy that we find or claim in the middle of everything. No need to wait for permission or for the perfect time, but to walk straight into right where you are, brave enough to say yes. And so that one, I'll come back to the power spots in a minute, but that one reminds me of our questions for this month, which is to pay attention to those sacred yeses and holy no's, the holy yes and sacred no, and how they land in your body. That's part of cultivating self-trust and trust as well, is what are you saying yes to? So that poem said, brave enough to say yes, to walk into the small sacredness and the everyday magic that's right around you right now. But what are you saying yes to? Are you able to honor your yeses and your nos? Do you feel that sacred yes and holy no? And how do you honor it? How do your choices land in your body? Do they feel light or do they feel heavy? Do they expand or do they constrict? Do they close you in or do they feel liberating and free? Something I'm coming back to over and over and over again this year is that we are the sites of our own liberation. We can set ourselves free. And that's what I feel like Pandora invites us to consider. My word of the year goddess is my Pandora, and she has I've changed her belt out today for the Pandora belt, but she has her liberate belt on usually. And I really find it powerful to come back to that idea that we're the sites of our own liberation. The door isn't even locked. And what have we shut away? What have we shut away in our lives, and what can we set free? What are we longing to set free? So how do your choices land in your body? How do they register with you? Reminding you that there isn't a right or wrong, there isn't a perfect or a right way. So if you feel like your choices land in your body and they feel heavy and dull, that doesn't mean you have to transform your whole entire life. You're just being asked to trust that tells you something. That information tells you something. And so it's not wrong to have a choice land in your body and feel dull and heavy, but it's information. It's information that you can use to set yourself free. So that's the reminder there. And then, so really that's kind of the core question that I'm working with this month is what have I shut away and what can I set free? And so I wanted to share, let me see, I have so many things I wanted to share with you this video that I'm eager to get to them all, and I'm kind of jumping around through various topics. But I think I'm going to go ahead and read you this poem about deep trust, because I've been talking about trust and about the power of daily practice to nourish that trust. So over the years, I have cultivated a deep trust in my own process, returning again and again to the knowing and the experience that when I show up for my own life, the sacred shows up too. I call my spirit back again again and again. I settle into my body again and again. I return to center again and again. I begin again and again. I reconnect again and again. I open my eyes and lean into this world again and again. This is where I meet the goddess again and again. And it's worthy of emphasis every month that we're always invited to begin again, and that our sensation of longing for connection, our sensation of longing for something, that's our doorway in. That's our doorway back home. That's our doorway of return. That's a doorway of cultivation of self-trust. And so that is bringing me to the Power Spots poem that I referenced. And this I was gonna put this in the guidebook and then I didn't because it was written during the winter still. And here we are in spring, in April, and it still holds value. So disregard, I thought about trying to replace the snow and the ice mention, but that's not the poem that I wrote. And so I'm gonna go ahead and include it, but don't let that distract you from the current month that we're in. Today I sit and watch the snow drift, sparse fat flakes dancing on a chilly breeze. There are frozen raindrops on the mulberry branches and the ground is dusted with gritty white ice. My hands are cold, but I have my tea and my blanket and my prayer book and my eyes. This is what I need to make magic every day. I am thinking about making our own magic, finding our own magic, losing our magic, and returning home again. These are parts of each ordinary and extraordinary life, so commonplace and enchanted all in one. I am thinking about power spots, those small sacred spaces in our lives that we tend and nourish and that we return to again and again. It is in this process of returning that we discover these spaces are capable of holding a reserve of magic, a memory of lessons learned, of power claimed, of wisdom accessed, of enchantment encountered, of prayers offered, of hopes unlocked. And these power spots become a powerful place of returning. When we come back to them, we can settle back into, tap back into, nestle back into everything they have held before. The reserve that has been strengthened and deepened has been bolstered and fed, and it in turn replenishes us, refuels us, reminds us, and nourishes us. This is how we build trust in ourselves and in the current of the sacred that runs beneath all of our lives. This is how we build trust. We can never be lost. We can never lose our magic, for we need only to return, and returning can be as close as the next breath, the next heartbeat, the next snowflake in the icy air, or the next violet in bloom beneath your feet. So that brings me back to April, since that was so power spots wise, one of the practices that I would encourage for you this month is to either tune in to the power spots that you already have. And again, I'll link to a power spots ritual kit where you can see much more about this concept. But I encourage you to either identify the power spots that you already have in your life and then commit to them, revisit them, see how this process of return deepens and builds your own self-trust and your trust in this current of the sacred that underlies your life. But if you feel like you don't have a power spot, then this is your opportunity to build one, to create one, to decide what it is. And you can have multiple power spots. I've referenced before, my yoga mat is one, my porch swing is one, my tiny temple is one. I even feel like the road that I walk on is a power spot in my life. And the rocks in the woods are one of my power spots, the pine trees that I visit. So you can have multiple power spots. An altar in your house can be the power spot. Your bed can be a power spot. You can cultivate multiple things. So if you feel like you don't have one, cultivate one. If you feel like you do have one, but maybe it's a little neglected, tend to it and see what grows. It's amazing to me what will grow. So I don't make a lot of extravagant promises, but one of the things I will promise is that if you find your power spot and you go to it every day or almost every day, something will happen. You will discover magic. You will unlock a reserve of power. You will build self-trust. You will meet the goddess in your own life every day if you cultivate this relationship with the power spot. So that is one of the practices I would really like to encourage for you for this month. And then I also wanted to, speaking of the ordinary life and the process of returning, I wanted to share a couple of quotes with you. This one's from Patricia Lynn Riley in the book, I Promise Myself. Embrace your ordinary life, whatever its wrappings, for in the embrace you will hear the whisper of gratitude. Listen for her in the ordinary activities of your day, in the ordinary encounters with loved ones, and in the ordinary challenges that rise to greet you each morning. She speaks from the depths of you in the voice of your ordinary life. And then a reminder from Patricia Monahan in The Goddess Path: the goddess has never been lost. It is just that some of us have forgotten how to find her. But the path to her is there. The goddess path is within you. To walk it, you must develop your inner resources and strengths. Information and insights will come to you from others. Evaluate them in the light of truths from your own heart, for that is where she lives. Even when you forget to look for her, she is always there, providing the love and strength and power you need. Look for her there, and you will always find her. And that's what I meant about the even 15 seconds with your hand on your heart can change your life. It can change your day. It can change your mood. It can change your life. And so I wanted to mention that. And then one more, this one from Barbara Ardringer, and I love this. Practicing the presence of the goddess is a way to get centered in your own center. Okay, so now going ahead and coming back to April, and I have this ode to April that I wanted to share with you. Ode to April. You arrive with thunder and wind, and then settle yourself across the land with pink and white grace. The mulberry and pear trees are resplendent in white. The apple, peach, and crabapple blushed with pink. Shy purple violets and bright dandelion suns spring open beneath our feet as bloodroot, trillium, and toothwort make their way across stony slopes. Soon mushrooms will lift their heads and iris will spread her petals. Daffodils have already started to retire, but magnolia is dropping by to share her secrets, and the buds on the lilacs and redbud trees speak of sweetness to come. There are turkeys gobbling between the trees and cardinals nesting in high branches, cedar waxwings stopping by for a spell, and yellow-bellied sapsuckers investigating promising trees. April, you dazzle me. April, you delight me. April, you bring beauty trailing after you and leave sunlit possibility in your wake. Okay, so April, sunlit possibility, self-trust, small sacredness, power spots, so many things to think about this month. And so I would like to, I had a couple of reminders about the power of daily practice, and then I'd like to close with my Cross the Threshold poem. This is one of my favorites. It reminds me of Pandora. It reminds me of being sites of our own liberation. And it's one of my own personal favorites of my various poems. But anyway, briefly about the power of daily practice. One of the things, and this is so setting yourself free, keeping your power spot, building self-trust. Part of building self-trust is in keeping your promise to yourself. So if you say, I'm going to cultivate a daily practice, I'm going to visit my power spot, I'm going to treat myself with love and kindness, whatever it is, keeping your promise to yourself is part of how self-trust grows. And it's not about forcing yourself to do something. It's not about trying to be perfect or to do it right, but keeping your promise is a really powerful act of trust, and it really builds your own relationship with trust. So that was one of the things I wanted to mention, is that we often make and break promises to ourselves, things that are silent and secret, and only we know that we broke the promise. But our bodies and our hearts feel and remember it. Daily practice invites us into keeping our own word, building trust with ourselves that we will hold our own vows sacred, inviolate, and strong. We will not abandon ourselves or our own wholeness anymore. In daily practice, we find that self-trust is born and grows. We are worthy of our own time. We can keep our promises to ourselves. We can give ourselves what we need. And we can make a space for the sacred and ourselves at the center of our own lives. And if you have a power spot and you have small practices, it's that much easier to come home, to return, to keep the promise. And so that's something else that I would like to invite you to consider this month and to pay attention to, not in a shamey or blamey way or an accusatory way, but just in a noticing way, just like you're noticing how your choices land in your body. Also notice how often you override your own knowing or abandon your own wholeness. Often we know what we need. We know what promise we're making and what we want to be keeping, and then we override it for whatever reason. cultural pressures, family pressures, life pressures. Life holds a lot, and it can pressure us to override our own knowing and to abandon our own wholeness. So this month, as you're cultivating, building, and honoring self-trust, I encourage you to keep your promise to yourself, even if it is a secret, sacred, silent promise. Keep your promise. And when you notice yourself overriding your own wholeness or overriding your own knowing, remind yourself that you're the site of your own liberation and consider the possibility of choosing something different. You don't have to. If you need to override your own knowing, the recognition that that's what you're doing is liberation in and of itself. Like right now, I'm going to override my own knowing because I have this responsibility or this expectation, but I'm noticing that I'm doing it. There's power in the noticing that you're doing it, even if you still go forward with overriding it. The noticing is power. The noticing is sovereignty. The noticing is liberation. The noticing is its own doorway. Even if you still have to do something that you don't want to do or that is kind of contrary to what your heart is telling you. So anyway, sacred yeses, holy no's, sacred no's, holy yeses. Pay attention to how they land in your body. Pay attention to the process of returning. Remember that even if you've overridden something, even if you've abandoned your own wholeness, you're always invited to return. You're always invited to come back. The life practice is to return, not to have it all figured out and to never do anything quote unquote wrong. The life practice is to return. So I'm going to go ahead and close with the Cross the Threshold poem that I referenced. Like I said, this is one of my favorites, and I would love for you to hear the invitation within it and to consider that and to return to that idea that you can trust yourself. That's the affirmation for this month, is I trust myself to be here. I trust myself. And I love that. I trust myself to be here. I trust myself to be here now with my life as it is, with the whatever it is that's happening, even if what I've done is overridden my own knowing or abandoned my own wholeness. I trust myself to be here for this life that I'm living, inhabiting the arising and trusting the unfolding. That's something that I've referenced in several recent videos, and it's been a really core lesson to me personally this year, has been to pay attention to what's arising as this living practice of wholeness, of center, and of trust, and of sacred living, is to inhabit the arising. What's happening right now, to take part in life's unfolding right now. So here we are, cross the threshold. And I've read this several times, so it might sound familiar to you, but I think it's a perfect one for Pandora. I think it's a perfect one for trust. Cross the threshold. They said the door was locked, and for a long time you believed them, but then you tried the handle and discovered it was open the whole time. Dance with moon shadows, star song, and joy. Come undone. Unravel all your fears and set them free. Don't make sense. There are cowrie shells around your neck and honey on your lips and rose petals on your fingertips. Trace a crescent moon across your brow. Let magic settle in your belly. Find a howl along the shore and let it roar. Open the treasure chest. Unfold your wings. Let rain carry you 1,000 miles. Discover you can relate to ashes, to wind and grief, pine trees and grace. Remember what you forgot. Sing about it. Find a fallen poem and lift it back into your heart. Let yourself be soft and easy. See through the fog. Be alone and together all at once. Inhabit delight. Cross the threshold. The door was never even locked. So welcome to April. May you trust yourself to be here. Keep living your magic. Bye-bye.